Welcome to the NBA Profit Show, powered by EV Analytics. I'm John Metler. He's Adam Schirher. Like Bobby Newport saying in the chat there, smash that like button. Adam, how's it going for you today?
Going pretty well. Hopefully today's show goes better than yesterday's show. Congrats to Bobby and chat for missing that one.
So we went 1-2 yesterday. Spencer Dinwiddie, we had 10 dimes. Jalen Brown, kind of a little we knew the injury report. They had a bunch of guys questionable, but everyone ended up sitting out for that one. Jalen Brown, 24 points, but we did win. Tobias Harris going under 2.5 assists, who actually also left the game with an injury. But we also talked about that. He was coming back from an injury. So, I mean, that's just one of the advantages of betting in under. So we're 64-55 on the year, plus 14.38 units on the NBA season here. Is there anyone who stood out to you today on the board where like projection looks really, really good? We're getting like really deep into like tanking season here. A lot of weird rotations, a lot of weird minutes. I was looking at some things last night. I was like, oh my God, what team was I forget I was filling out. I'd have to look at the board. I was like, I'm trying to fill out like 240 minutes for the game for them. And I was like, who's playing in this game? Anything you saw on the board there?
Just a couple that I didn't want to bet because of injury reports. Justin Champagnie looking good in the projections, but that's with a 22-minute projection, and we don't have a Wizards injury report. Pretty good chance that some combination of people are out that have him in the starting lineup and playing more minutes than that. Denny Avdia under points is projecting well, but we have a Q tag on Anthony Simons, and if Simons is out, obviously that point projection on Denny is increasing pretty drastically. So skipped over that one too.
Yeah, I think those are actually the two. Now it was Wizards because they have like two very drastic. It's like, is Middleton, Marcus Smart, and like you can name like 6 different guys. Are they playing, or are all these guys playing? So then you don't really know how to distribute the minutes and stuff. And then like you said, Denny Avdia. I looked at Denny Avdia last night too, and you're like, okay, if Anthony Simons is actually out, Denny Avdia actually might just shoot the ball like 25 times because they're missing Scoot, they're missing DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant's doubtful, and the Raptors are not trying to win. So are they even going to guard him? We will get rolling here into the picks. We have 3 picks for you today. Adam's from EV Analytics. They do fantastic prop projections. You can find it on the Covers website. Go to Sports, NBA, and prop projections, and you can see them right there. A lot of numbers, but we're going to provide a little more context to those numbers. There's our guy, Jalen Wilson, who scored 0 points for us a couple weeks ago. If you're new to the release procedure, we are going to tell you what sportsbook to bet on. We'll tell you what game we're betting on, the prop market, the team, the player, the bet, and then we'll kind of have Adam break it down. We'll kick it around and kind of talk about a little bit more from a basketball perspective as well, not just purely the projection, because on the website it's purely projections. We're going to provide a little more context. We are at Bet365 and DraftKings today. ESPN, MGM also showing good alternate prices. As always, if you see a better price, these prices constantly move. That's the one thing about this space. They're always moving. If you see a better price, drop in the chat so everyone can get a better price. Let's get going here. We're at 365 for the first one. And we're going to the Magic Wizards game. And we're hoping for good Wi-Fi here. We are spinning. You ever place like a live in-game bet and it spins and then you don't get it through and then something bad actually like happens? Like then you wait a second and something bad happens in the game for that. You're like, well, we're really happy that actually didn't spin through there. So
yeah, the worst for me is like MMA is my favorite sport to live bet, and I never know how delayed the ESPN app stream is. So it's just like, I'm putting in this bet and there's a decent chance that like this guy's getting knocked out as I place the bet.
Yeah. Caleb doing the chat saying, John, I appreciate your single-handedly picking up the flag and campaigning on Twitter for Dort to be Defensive Player of the Year. I'll touch on this quickly because we're obviously having some technical difficulties here. I think Lou Dort, like, I always view basketball as if you're the best on the best team, you should probably win awards and stuff, because it's like anyone in the NBA can put up stats in like any form of situation. Like, if you throw anyone into like the Wizards, they're going to score points because there's just going to be like about 100 points in a game for a team and stuff like that. And so if you're the best on the best team, like in my opinion, he's the best defender on the best defensive team. That's why I just think he should win. Like type thing. It's not like, like baseball, for example, if you put me or Adam in the lineup of any team, we're going to strike out like 700 times. So it's not like there's just automatically stats to go around. in NBA there kind of is. So that's why I always look at like the best on the best team type thing. So and he always takes difficult for wing defenders. Yeah, they don't really have stats. That's a problem. He doesn't really have like counting stats to to help him with that. So anyways, we're back here. We'll go back to the picks here. We're going to the assist market. And our bet is there. And we are going Cory Joseph under 2.5 assists plus 125. Once again, that's Cory Joseph under 2.5 assists plus 125. Adam, you want to break this one down?
Yeah, so I think there's just kind of a couple different ways that you can get a win here. Cole Anthony is not on the injury report. He returned last game. He played like 19 minutes off the bench, which I think was actually a little bit more than anticipated. So there is the one path where Anthony just moves into the starting lineup. I don't think that's super likely. But Cory Joseph in that game did only play 18 minutes. That included like a minute and a half closing that game as well. We only have him projected for 17 minutes here. This game has a 14-point spread. I wouldn't anticipate Cory Joseph starting and then playing garbage time. I assume Orlando goes to other guys. They have plenty of bodies. In the 2 games that he has started with Cole Anthony this year, he has averaged 21 minutes per game. So he played 18 or whatever last game. He played 24, I guess, in the other one. But he still only has averaged in those 2 games 2.5 assists per game. It's not like he's a massive assist guy anyway. You're getting plus money here. I think there's just a lot of ways this can go. Obviously, the thing working against him is that the Wizards are absolutely awful. He can convert 2 assists or 3 assists pretty easily. But it's not like he's not TJ McConnell or something where he's just out there like picking up dimes every minute he's on the floor. And there is a lot of volatility in his playing time here, even if he does start, because no guarantee he closes, either because he doesn't need to close or because the game's a blowout. Either way. And with Cole Anthony back and probably playing something like 20, 22 minutes off the bench, obviously that cuts into his playing time as well.
I think you nail it with the playing time, because I do think they kind of ran into the situation, the Magic, where randomly, like they didn't expect it, just happened because of injuries. But then Cory Joseph, alongside Wagner and Banchero, has been a very efficient lineup for them. And he doesn't like do anything spectacular, but he's just a really high basketball IQ guy. And that really helps him with helping out Wagner and Banchero. And I bring this up because I don't think tonight's a game against the Wizards where I think they're kind of concerned when you watch it that I don't think they anticipate Cory Joseph starting this many games at his age, playing this many minutes and like all these games in a row type thing. It's kind of like he's more at the point of his career where it's, you can't randomly come off the bench for 10 minutes once a week or something, right? So the fact that he's like starting every single game now, I think their Magic are maybe a little bit concerned about that from like a minutes perspective. So tonight would be one of those games where you could just go grab Jet Howard, Tristan Da Silva, like name your guy, Caleb Houston. They have all these guys off the bench they could turn to and dial back Cory Joseph's minutes. He'll start, but like dial back his minutes like later in the game type thing. So I think you're definitely onto something there with the minutes as well.
Yeah, and I think the thing to keep in mind too is like Cory Joseph is kind of starting point guard in name only. He's not a true facilitator. If you look for the season, Cory Joseph, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero have shared the floor for 230 minutes now. Joseph has a 16.9% assist percentage, which isn't nothing, but it's not, your true primary playmaker assist percentage. Paolo Banchero's over that same stretch is 21.3%. Wagner's is 13.9%. So you have Joseph getting less assists than Banchero when they're on the floor together, barely getting more from a percentage standpoint than Wagner. He is the quote unquote point guard, but he's not the one just constantly initiating offense.
No, yeah. And even last game, I was watching last game against the Clippers, and like Wagner was just being harassed by Chris Dunn, and they're still making Wagner bring up the ball and run the offense. So I think that kind of tells you where Cory Joseph's role is in terms of like you're not like on the ball running everything. So we're going Cory Joseph under 2.5 assists plus 125. We'll move to the second bet here. Going Grizzlies Heat. And we're staying in the assist market. And we're going Jaren Jackson Jr. over 1.5 assists plus 145. Rare over. We're going Jaren. So once again, that's Jaren Jackson Jr. over 1.5 assists plus 145. You want to break this one down?
Yeah, this one and the next one, both from this game, and both, I think, really kind of boring ones to talk about. They're the ones where you kind of look at the projection and you're just like, yeah, okay, makes sense. Price looks good. Jaren Jackson has played 33 total games this year with both Ja Morant and Desmond Bane active. He's averaged 30.2 minutes per game. We have him projected for 31. You've seen the playing time up a little bit recently, and that's been the case for all of the main Memphis pieces. If you go back earlier in the season, you had some flatter rotations from Taylor Jenkins, who no longer is even there. You had some injuries where guys were intentionally being limited, really all three of Jackson, Dane, and Morant. But now you're at a point in the season where they're all playing big minutes. This game only has a 4.5 point spread. So projecting 31 minutes for Jackson, I think, does make sense. Obviously, you're dealing with foul risk with him always, but he has gotten better about that as his career has gone on. Game has a relatively competitive spread. And like I said, averaging 1.8 assists per game in those 33 games at 30.2 minutes. The matchup against Miami is not ideal. They're a bottom 10 team in pace. They're a top 10 team in defensive rating this season. They have obviously been playing much worse of late than they have overall this year. But even that aside, you're getting substantial plus money on Jaren Jackson basically just doing what he does on average.
Yeah, Bobby's saying in the chat there. So plus 135 MGM. I don't think he's listed at Caesars or FanDuel like he says there. And I believe plus 135 at ESPN as well. I do think you brought up the flatter rotations. I do think when earlier in the season when Taylor Jenkins and pretty much for the most of the season, the minutes for the starters of the Memphis Grizzlies, and we talked about this a lot, was really, really low compared to other stars. It was kind of in the 30s. I'm not sure you've totally seen what the new coach might do for Jaren Jackson Jr.'s minutes here, because the first game he coached, he had 3 fouls in the first half and he only played 6 minutes, and then he only finished the game with like 28, but he actually played I think he played like 22 of 24 in the second half, which kind of gives you a little idea of how that coach might run it. And then the next 2 games were Warriors Celtics back to back. So he kind of played those like 31, 32 minutes you'd expect from him. But once again, it's 2 tough teams back to back. So I don't think you've really seen completely like what this coach might do with his minutes. And it's very possible. Like, it's a lot easier for someone to go from like 31 to like 34, 35 versus like 35 to like 39, right? So do you want to add to that?
Yeah, also the Golden State game. I'm not sure. I don't have the Celtics game pulled up, so I don't know about that one. But the Golden State game, there was also foul trouble. It wasn't as substantial as the first one. And obviously, you can't just look at Jaren Jackson and be like, oh, well, foul trouble, that doesn't happen. There's a pretty good chance he gets in foul trouble tonight, too. But he played 31 minutes in a game where he played 3 minutes and 19 seconds in the first quarter, picked up 2 fouls, didn't come back in until the start of the second quarter, played the entire second quarter. And then with 1:55 left in the game, he picked up his 5th foul, went to the bench, never came back. Still got the 31 minutes, and realistically probably lost a couple.
Yeah. So I there's another great example of that. You can go look at the very first game that this coach coached as well. It was very like he sat. I think it was about like 5 minutes. He got played like 5 minutes or 6 minutes in the first quarter, and then boom, he was out the whole rest of the first half. So it kind of on the surface it looks like he's playing the exact same minutes Taylor Jenkins was giving him, but I'm not so sure that's the case here. So I think it's a good bet for Jaren Jackson Jr.
The way I think about it, and obviously there's a lot of uncertainty with how these rotations are going to look, but the other thing I really like is, like, if you look at that Golden State game, they kind of let him make up a lot of the minutes that he had lost in the first quarter. So that's one thing too, to kind of, it's a nuanced thing with coaches. Sometimes you'll see guys get in foul trouble, they put them on the bench, and then they maintain basically their same rotations throughout the game, and so they just lose minutes. Other coaches will run them more minutes later on. And we have seen that with Jackson, where it's not like they're saying, well, we only want him to play 8 minutes at a time. So if he gets in foul trouble, tough luck, he's just playing 28 minutes today. They're saying, okay, well, now he can just go play an entire quarter. So that's a good thing. And I don't, and so what I was getting at was the way I'm kind of thinking about it is, like, with Taylor Jenkins, you could get 32, 33-minute games from Jaren Jackson if everything went perfectly, the game was competitive, he avoided foul trouble. But on average, you were more in that like 28, 29, 30-minute range. I think from what we've seen with the new coach, it's likely that your expectation is 31, 32 minutes. And then the games where everything goes perfectly, he plays 34, 35.
Yeah, based like on what you're saying too, it looks like worst case scenario with that coach, like he's trying to make up those minutes. Like you said, he's like worst case scenario, he's getting him to that 31, 32. But like best case scenario could be higher for Jaren Jackson. Also, at a certain point, you're the new coach, you're 0-3. You probably want to win. Right. So
if they'll fire Taylor Jenkins, you have to assume that you don't have much job security.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but we'll move. Oh, is this he's got the breakdown here from his minutes. Jaren Jackson Jr. Yeah, there we go. That was Golden State.
It looks like the Golden State game.
Yeah, so you can see that Lakers.
You got it.
Yeah. you can see the Lakers game that huge gap in the second quarter because he sat up. But then look at the second half. He played almost like you said. The coach was looking to make up those minutes. It's like just because you missed that first half, it's not like, oh, we're gonna put you in 7 minutes, take you out, sub you. He played. Yeah. I think he was like 22 of 24 minutes. So
yeah, and you see it in the first half of that Golden State game. The abbreviated first quarter rotation is because of fouls, but then he gets the entire
and then whole second quarter.
Yeah, gets most of the third quarter.
Yeah. All right, we'll move to the third bet here too because we're saying this game as well. We're going Grizzlies Heat, but we're going to DraftKings this time. We're going Grizzlies Heat game still. And we're looking for the points market. And we are going Ja Morant under 23.5 points, minus 105. Once again, that's Ja Morant under 23.5 points, minus 105. Adam, you want to break this one down?
Yeah, kind of like I said, the same thing is with Jackson, where you're just kind of looking at what he's done for the season and saying, yeah, the price here looks good at minus 105. He's played 33 games with both Bane and Jackson. He's averaged 30.2 minutes per game, 21.6 points per game. You expect him to play more here. Again, new coach, and also Morant is somebody that was being intentionally limited a bit to like a lot of 28-minute games earlier in the year. But we have him projected for 33 minutes. So that was one of the first things that I wanted to see was, are we using the Ja Morant season average, or are we using Ja Morant, what he's probably going to do tonight, projection? And 33 minutes looks good there. But like I mentioned with Morant or with Jackson, Miami is a bottom 10 team in pace. They have been a top 10 defensive team. Again, they have struggled lately. But it's a huge pace down spot for Memphis. And so when you look, if you extrapolate out the 21.5 points per game that Morant has so far in the games with Bane and Jackson this year, if you extrapolate that out to 33 minutes, you're talking about basically just being right in line with the 23.5 here. He would, I did the math earlier and then forgot, but it would be an average of, or a projection of 23.6 minutes. So basically exactly what the line is here. And that's, a neutral, assuming a neutral matchup, which Miami is not. So it's not a bet that I think you're like super excited about. But given that, it is Ja Morant and scoring, and the under there is never going to feel great. But it's not an ideal matchup. And he is playing with both Bane and Jackson here. So it just at that price projects as a profitable bet.
Neil Parker from Covers here saying Betway has plus 25.5 minus 125. So that's, I think, the majority of the rest of the market was about 24.5 minus 130. So that's why you went 23.5 minus 105 because the juice was drastically different. But 25.5 minus 125, that I'm pretty sure you'd have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure that definitely beats off the board now, of course. I'm pretty sure that typically that would beat this 23.5 minus 105. Yeah.
And for what it's worth, if you're on a book that has 24.5 minus 130, it doesn't look quite as good as 23.5 minus 105, but it does still look like it.
Yeah, still good. From like the basketball side of things here for Ja Morant, one, he almost, I guess you can almost, because we brought this up with Stephon Castle a couple of times, his offense is kind of similar, right? It's not 3-point shooting, it's more drive the lane, finish around the rim, and Miami is playing that double big Khalil Ware, Bam Adebayo on the interior, so that's not necessarily great for him. And then you're also looking at Davion Mitchell is by far their best perimeter defender. I'm assuming he would be on Ja Morant. And then you kind of look at like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero will probably be on like Desmond Bane and those other guys. You would think Desmond Bane would have the way better matchup than Ja Morant from like attacking people on the perimeter if you're going at Tyler Hero versus Ja Morant versus Davion Mitchell. So I think that kind of all plays to, I think the matchups kind of line up where you could see like the usage swing just a little bit towards someone else because they would have a significantly better matchup. And also with how he scores his points, not a great matchup either. I would say that for Ja Morant here. Third bet, Ja Morant under 23.5 points, minus 105 at DraftKings. Obviously, some other options there. Yossi saying 24.5 minus 120 ESPN, so that's close too. 3 bets today. Cory Joseph under 2.5 assists plus 125. Jaren Jackson Jr. over 1.5 assists plus 145. Ja Morant under 23.5 points minus 105. Adam, I want to let the people know where they can follow you, where they can get more information.
Follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS and check out the Endgame Syndicate YouTube channel for some DFS shows over there as well.
So reminder, we're 64 and 55 on the year, plus 14.38 units on the season here. We chirped Joel Embiid. Then we slipped backwards a little bit here. So now we got to get back over that 20 unit mark. Just make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, if you have any questions, just drop them into the chat. I always check it throughout the day. If there's any questions there, I'll answer them. If you have any questions, not even about the releases, if you just have questions about other props and you want to ask, again, drop in the comments there. I'll go back, I'll check throughout the day and I'll answer it for you. Make sure you drop a like as well. It really helps our show out. This concludes the NBA Prop Pick Show powered by EV Analytics. We'll be back Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Good luck with your bets. Del, play the song.